Yeah. Over to you, Viral, for your case study.
Great. Right. My name is Patel. So I'm going to go through my case study of the Product MBA. So the problem statement I set out to look at was, we believe digital experts, digital heads, the niche area are currently frustrated and really sort of struggling, not having a high impactful digital channel strategy. So the first objective was really to validate this problem market fit, and really the high impact digital channel strategy is really an acute problem for our niches, our digital experts, our heads of digital. Some of the key results to validate that was to carry out 5 user interviews. So I reached out to my LinkedIn network and colleagues to essentially carry out 5 interviews, aggregate those into acute problems and flip those problems into opportunities and really sort of validate the acquisition channel. So the next slide, a lot of detail there, but essentially had user interviews with 5 colleagues, flip back there, and really highlighted a lot of frustrations. There was very little alignment. This whole space is very complicated. There's not generally a disagreement on purpose. There's lots of different behaviors, and really flip those into opportunities. So really aligning systems up, getting simplification, getting consistency, and really aligning stakeholders. So that essentially fleshed out to the product vision. We enabled digital experts to achieve an impactful digital channel strategy. And then the strategy to get to the vision was, we help digital experts achieve an impactful digital channel strategy with simplicity, simplification and consistency. So really the simplification was the key here. This whole process is really complicated in any organization. There's lots of sort of channels, audiences, really drive forward with the simplification. The second objective was to validate the market fit with the minimal viable offering. We had digital experts achieve a high impactful channel strategy with simplification. So some of the key results got in excess of 7% sign-up conversion from outreach, LinkedIn outreach, outreach from conference that I spoke at, around product and project. There was some offer differentiation, which I'll come on to, around the Blue Ocean strategy canvas, really identifying the differentiator with this the product on offer here, and some of the work and templating around the product story canvas and the product vision as well, which I'll come on to. So the minimal viable offering, we help digital experts achieve an impactful digital strategy with consistent simplification. So some of the ways I looked at in presenting this minimal viable offering is creating a landing page using Wix. So I outlined the value proposition, put together a sign-up form, and which is on the screen there. And that was really useful to sort of hone in on what the problem areas are for the niches. Was the strategy and the vision aligned? Did it resonate with them? So that was a really sort of useful tool to use to validate that. And then really the Blue Ocean canvas really identified with the product offering I put together. It was around the personalized service and the one-stop shop, because a lot of competitors I looked at, there's a lot of sort of heavy consultancy, a lot of sort of experts coming in, and there's lots and lots of conversations of really resonating around that one-stop shop and that personalized service. So validating the product vision, again, had just around in excess of 5% of landing page visitors signed up to the beta waiting list. Was really good. So I got good feedback there. Again, sort of looking at the lean canvas, which is a really useful tool, looking at the problem, looking at some of the competitors out in the market, and really looking at some of the unfair advantages of an organization, the authority of a good university, and some of the segments around the senior leadership team, early adoption, and really looking at the revenue streams. Like a subscription model would make perfect sense with this product offering. And really just looking at the strategic roadmap, which I'll come on to, really sort of iterating the product and bringing that to market as well. So again, a strategic roadmap was a really useful tool, sort of essentially putting all the feature sets together, feature backlog together, working out the high impact features that will deliver high impact and high value to the audiences with as least amount of effort as possible, and then looking at sort of short, medium, and long-term features that could be delivered as part of this product. And of course, I did various iterations of the landing page to really sort of hone in on what the niche was looking for and how we can sort of convert them to sign up and take interest in the product and essentially buy into the product. The customer journey map I found was a really useful tool, really looking at the scenarios. In this scenario, Michael, persona, really frustrated, and really just understanding some of the goals Michael will be looking to really meet and what the actions would be expecting from him as well. So it's all around simplification, sort of putting the audiences together, understanding the business purposes, putting a really coherent action plan. And then Michael could actually take that to his senior leadership team, get buy-in, and really be confident that he could then go ahead, get the buy-in from senior leadership team and execute his plan as well. So I found that was a really useful tool I can use going forward for workshops in the organization as well. So really validating the core value. So key results, onboarding 2 beta testers. So initially I tested my prototype with 2 testers, but the plan is going forward is to continue sort of testing, iterating the product, looking at opportunities, making it more fit the needs of the niche, running the product market fit engine as well, getting a score of more than 1% to really validate that this is a real niche area and a real problem area for our niche markets. And then essentially building a Figma prototype, which I'll come on to, is essentially a high fidelity prototype that we can use and further validate with audiences before we invest more time and effort in building out a product. So I'm just going to play a very quick Loom video going through the prototype.
There's no audio with it. I mean, that's fine as long as we can visualize it. Don't worry. I think it might be because your headphones are plugged in. Don't worry, as long as we can visualize it, just you can talk through what's going on a high level. Cool to see it as well.
Yeah, so essentially they log in and then you enter your vision, your strategy, business purpose, what the business is for, and sort of, just text boxes, sort of entering all the information there. There's a visual cue to see the progress that's been made within the prototype and the portal. So really sort of quite self-explanatory, lots of information that will go through there as well. Into the tool as well. And then essentially the second part of this is to really outline the audiences. So who are your key audiences? What do you want them to do? What are the key drivers really for these audiences for the organization? What are some of the key messages? Messaging strands to them, and the KPIs are really sort of key. How do we know we've done a good job with these audiences, and some of the key channels? What are the key channels involved here as well? Then the stakeholders' opportunity to add additional audiences as well, so they can click the +++, which will go through and add additional audiences into the portal as well. And then essentially, at the end of that, there'll be a summary screen. So we'll outline the key audiences, some of the key actions that we want the audiences to do when they come to some of our digital touch points in the organization, the key messaging strands, communications, some of the key performance indicators, and the key channels as well. At this point, before the user's presented with the screen, there is some back-end processing of all the information to sort of beautifully sort of present that into PowerPoint slides, collaboration tools, or a tool akin to Miro. Essentially, the stakeholder will then log back into the portal, and they'll be able to download a plan that they can then take to sort of senior leadership team to say, look, we've done a lot of work in the field. It's all sort of presented. Can we agree and iterate the plan? And then we can start thinking about how to execute that as well. Cool. So coming back to the slides and really just honing in on the high impact, lowest effort work to our audiences as well. So with the PMF Engine Results, interviewed two of my colleagues. Some of the good things that came out of it was really clear. It was uncomplicated. It was capturing key information. There was a good flow, a good UX. It was quite succinct. It was quite enticing. Some of the things to improve, some of the languaging was quite verbose, maybe more of a personalized feel, an element of sort of come back and log in, make it more engaging, look at the sort of the output of that. Is that going to be a series of PowerPoint slides? Can we sort of tailor them, look at some of the imagery, maybe move away from locale specific imagery, and just sort of explain there is a bit of processing. It's not a case of you fill in the tool and then you get the results. There'll be a bit of processing before you get your end product as well. So a couple of last few slides, really the short term, really want to capture complex information and distill it really clearly, get really senior leadership buy-in for this initiative, and really create a quick action plan that you can take to senior leaders and say, look, this is a really good idea. We've canvassed a lot of stakeholders within the organization. This is the lay of the land, and this is what we need to do as well. So again, the roadmap, setting out some of the short-term, medium-term, and long-term initiatives, and really sort of mapping out the KPIs. Are they page views? Are they completed sort of portal views? Number of times the email link is shared, and really sort of honing in on the KPIs to essentially make sure what we set out to achieve, we're achieving and exceeding as well. And some of the principles, again, a lot of the work I've done on the course is based on data. So a lot of user interviews, a lot of conversations. It's all sort of fact-based as opposed to subjective sort of opinions or feelings. Again, really sort of honing in on delivery of high value and moving away from a feature delivery to high impact, high value delivery. Avoiding code, a lot of development, so really sort of building prototypes and testing them, validating them, iterating them, getting the buy-in, and then investing that time and money and effort into building a solution once everything's validated, and we can sort of validate there's a revenue stream, and this is really something worth going after. And again, going back to first principles, doing workshops and having conversations, using best UX principles, understanding user needs, user focus, are really sort of key delivering a product, building a product. And finally, last two slides around the process of really understanding what we're setting out to achieve, understanding the problem, flipping that to an opportunity. The whole ideation process was really useful, sort of understanding the niches, understanding lots of different problems, and honing in and understanding, okay, this is the idea I want to take forward, validate, really building on that prototype. And really it's a learning process throughout, like sort of adapting, getting feedback, adapting. Even the prototype built now, there's lots of opportunity to adapt, to add more feedback, make it more iterative, and really just invest once the strategy is fully validated and there's a real sort of revenue stream and it's something worth really sort of investing in going after. And really just a summary at the end. So really passionate digital product owner, got more than 20 years experience working predominantly in project management. The last 5 years I've been working product, mainly in a higher education institution. And really my focus now is on product strategy, the vision, the strategy, really not being afraid to ask the what and the why, having those in-depth sort of discovery and user calls, and really sort of building effective and leading effective teams, and just delivering results, really, the KPIs, and just keep building on that, really. So thank you.
Awesome. Great presentation. Good. Nice one, Viral. So what I'll do, I'm going to just quickly go through the like specific feedback for the case study, and then we can talk about some more general points. So just feel free to go back to the first slide, and just as I go through the points, just skip through to the relevant slides. So problem statement. This is great. I thought you had a really good, your bridging was very strong throughout. So what I mean by that is that everything flowed into it. The next slide, there was a narrative. So it's like, my first objective was to ... If you go to the next slide, sorry. And some of the key results to validate that were X, Y, and Z. You explained, what user interviews were and why you were doing them. So it's very clear to me, like, why this stuff was on the page and why you were talking about it. On the next slide, I think it's, it's cool in a way to show, like, if you're pitching to stakeholders, like, look how much work's gone into it. But I think obviously you want to zoom in potentially on, the acute problems, for example. Saying that you did do a good job of giving just one or two highlights. You brought it to life with the examples of saying, for example, there was little alignment was a problem that kept coming up. So, just visualizing it a little bit more. And I thought you did it. One thing I loved about it actually was you just simply said simplification was the key here. So you distilled all of this. You could have lost them, right? With all of this, they're like, okay, what the hell is going on? You distilled it down to the key thing that you need them to take away from this. Consistency and simplification. What I do with this I just put a big red circle around it, just to make sure they get, because they're not going to take many things away from the presentation. This is the big thing, actually, this strategy, unique opportunity. Good. On the objective 2, I thought 7% sign up was very good, actually, because it's a very busy niche, right? You got high level people, super busy. So that's a good sign. These are the kind of things as well you can couch, you give a bit more context on. Just like 7% sign up. This was actually really good because you were dealing with a very busy niche. And, I'm not a company, I was just reaching out to them on LinkedIn. So couch, giving context. Blue Ocean, again, you could tell your practice with presenting, because you mentioned, here's the Blue Ocean. That's what we use to differentiate the product. Again, it was like, what is it? Why are you bothering to tell me about this thing? Really, really well done with that. If you go to the next slide, I love this one. You quote some of the ways I validated, for example, with a landing page with Wix, with a sign up form. And that was useful because it helped, or the Blue Ocean. So that's useful because it helped us hone in on X, Y, and Z. Excellent. You really brought that to life of, again, what are you doing? Why is this helping us achieve this objective? So there was a narrative there. And Blue Ocean, great. Again, you gave some examples that brought that to life without giving, you zooming in and talking about it for 20 minutes. You could do a whole presentation just on Blue Ocean, right? So it's good and high level for the context that we're using it within in this case study. Go to the customer journey map. This was I'm picking it. I think it's the only thing that I could say you could improve upon. I think it's maybe, here we are. Just pure, it was the, time limitation, obviously, but you sort of went through, so we looked at scenario and the goals. I didn't actually come away with it. I was thinking, if I didn't know, obviously, like, I teach this, but if I were new to this, I'd be like, okay, well, why is it helpful to look at the scenario? Why is it important to look at the goals? What are the goals? Like, give me an example of one. For example, you did come back though to mention the USP of simplification, which was great. But again, just give one or two examples, more concrete. Obviously, time limitation, but I'm trying to pick at everything. On the Figma prototype, sorry, that you mentioned why we're doing Figma. Excellent. Again, talking about this high fidelity prototype to validate the idea before we commit more time and effort. That's so important to say why. Otherwise, particularly imagine your organization, traditional company, they're going to be like, why are we building this thing? Why aren't we just building something real? You're constantly, same with the discovery calls, you're selling, not just getting them on board with what you suggest, but also the whole concept of product discovery and validation and lean. So you need to be so, really, really strong on hammering the point home. This is why this stuff is valuable. Product discovery, it's really valuable because look, we actually came up with a different product vision. For example, we honed in on the thing that's really important. So keep hammering that home. You've got to be evangelizing as a product leader about these sort of new concepts. Good, great. You use Loom. I don't care about the audio issues with it. It's such a good tool for collaborating autonomously, particularly, more senior. You want to be communicating this stuff to people that probably aren't going to be in a meeting. So having a nice Loom link you can just send to them just saves a lot of time, and it's great for communication. On the solution, yeah, I mean, this is kind of one where it's interesting. It needs to be so simple and smooth that I sort of feel you have to just build the real thing, actually, in this case, to convey the value proposition. Tom is in a similar situation. But anyway, that's a whole different thing. I would have liked to see, someone more senior like yourself talk a little bit more strategically about things like, the importance of the viral loops of collaboration and sharing. It's a huge part of the success of that product. And the roadmap as well, and how that was going to evolve as a business. And again, something we don't touch on too much in Prod MBA, but how is the business side of things? So talking about what with the revenue, when are you going to hit revenue, profitability, these kind of things, where are those sort of big, basically talking about the strategic roadmap in a more mature way, let's say, a more experienced way about the strategy and the business side of things. On the word cloud, it's you got limited data, so not a big deal. But I just thought the big word good, I was like, if I looked at this, I wouldn't know what does that mean? Yeah. Right. It's not very actually. You talked about it really well though. You gave great context. Storytelling was good, and things to improve were good as well. But obviously that will come with more. Usually if we did this in the real world, we want to be doing constant, hundreds of pieces of feedback here.
Yes.
On the roadmap, I love this. I thought this was really, really strong. I was thinking like, it really, ticked the box for me, showed good strategic thinking. Again, this one, it's an interesting one with the solution. It's fine. Obviously I felt it was a bit weak in terms of UX UI, but it doesn't matter. That's not the key thing here. Like you're not a UX designer, and that's not the goal. It's really just to introduce you to something like Figma. So I think in this case, again, it's you'd have to have a really great UX UI designer, because it's so the simplicity and the smooth writing experience and the hierarchy of content. Those things are super important. So that's not a criticism at all. It's just, in the real world, we work with designers for a reason. And I think yours is one where it's particularly important because of the value prop. But again, I actually love the concept. I think you stripped it down. It reflects the value proposition, and the roadmap reflects the value proposition, which is important as a product manager. It's not being a great designer. Good. Just, and then I think just zooming out, I think, one big thing to improve upon, I think, is that, and I think I've seen actually a big shift in mindset. And I don't know if you felt this from, coming in, I felt it was, you had very fixed ideas of what you wanted to do. And actually you've done a pretty good job of shifting that mindset and sort of going back to first principles. So I think that's one big thing to continue. Don't settle on a solution, on a strategy, on a vision, unless you think it's uniquely valuable. I think that's particularly important in your current role, where you're in an industry, universities, where everyone's sort of doing the same stuff. So I think, keep pushing that. In this role, at some point you're going to move on as well in your next role. It's so important, because you've got the ground is fertile. Like you've got the ideas there, you've demonstrated that, and you've been open to changing that. And now it's just about practice, repetition. Second thing, you've thrown yourself into everything from, from the day we started onboarding and emails and things. So I think you've taken it very seriously, which is great to see. I think, obviously you're a busy guy as well. So great work having the time for this. Because again, it's not just about Prod MBA, it's how you're going to keep that time to keep improving yourself after the program. So filling that time with good habits, with learning new things, thinking strategically, these kind of things. I find a thing, in terms of next steps. I mean, what do you feel the next steps? Because obviously, we've got limitations. You're working in a big organization, but you can't just come in and go, right, let's MBO everything and that's that. So, as we talked about, it's about sort of those small shifts of behavior and culture, and just keep applying these things as you can.
Yeah, I think so.
And yeah, just keep pushing. As I said, you've done the work, your stuff now, so it's just about continuing on that path. What do you feel are the next steps with the solution? Is it something you're going to put on pause? Is it, what do you think is the main things you're going to take into
I think some
practice?
of the templates, I think, a lot of the templates, the customer journey map, I think a lot of these can be used in workshops, the lean canvas board, and I think using some of these templates, and like you said, I don't think we can sort of productize everything and put a vision to everything. It's going to be quite a step for the organization. But yeah, I think using the templates, I think just keep reiterating that home. I think I've been doing it all the time, like the customer needs, the user needs, explaining why the user needs. I think often the stakeholders don't understand and keep talking about users and impact and value, but they keep thinking about department and faculty and business. So I think it's just keep on explaining, why we're doing things, KPIs, and I think and just keep pushing. And I think next year, see how things pan out in our organization. But I'm open. Yeah,
nice.
Comes out.
I think, as I said, try and find one specific opportunity that you can, get some autonomy, pursue that, and then from ultimately it all comes down to results. Right? If you can demonstrate results, then you're going to start getting buy-in in other areas as well.
Yeah.
Good. Well, look, what I suggest as the next step, Bharat, is just keep me updated over email with what you are, that sort of big shift you're trying to bring.
Okay.
What the opportunity might be, and we can just keep you sort of moving in the right direction as well.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay, thank you, Henry.
Excellent. Well, thanks for the time. Honestly, really, really strong case study. Excellent storytelling. The next step is just, as I said, keep putting this stuff into practice. I think that quote somewhere in one of the slides around, mastery comes from doing the simple things well. So it's just getting more repetitions now. Excellent.
Okay.
Well, thanks
Thank
for
you. All right. Cheers.
We'll speak soon.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Bye.